Hey everyone, I'm Vaughn Mordecai and welcome to Ecosystem Builders. Today I'm joined by a partnership leader from a company that I've had a chance to work with quite a bit. I really respect them as one of the partners to Mind Matrix. And with me today, I've got Zach Svendsen, and he's the VP of Alliances at Tipalti. If you've not heard of Tipalti, they're one of the fastest growing players in Fintech automation. And if you know Zach at all, you know that he's a seasoned channel leader with a record of across a bunch of different partner organizations, and now he's leading ecosystem strategy for Tipalti, and really love their company. So, Zach, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Vaughn, thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation here.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun. Let's just get it started with a simple question. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? What do you do? Who are you? And what do you like to do when you're not working?
Yeah, you bet. So, real quick, so I'm from Minnesota. I hail from Minnesota. I still am here. That's why I sound Canadian. I live in Minnesota with my wonderful wife, and I've got 4 little kids, ages 3 through 7. So we're right in the thick of it. So anytime that I get away from work is oftentimes spent with my kids and my wife. We also have a dog, a cat, and up until recently we had 13 chickens. So we had a lot of heartbeat.
That's a lot of chickens.
And when I do get a chance, I love to golf or just to be outside and enjoy the weather while we have it nice in Minnesota.
Yeah, it lasts for all of about 5 minutes. And
it's a blink of an eye.
Do you do any ice fishing or anything with your winters?
Well, yeah. So ice fishing, not too many people talk about it, but ice fishing is a wonderful sport, if you can call it that. Ice fish, I love hockey or playing boot hockey or broom ball or whatever I can. I find that's the easiest way to get winter to go by quickly is by enjoying it as much as possible.
Yeah, I think the coldest experience of my life might actually have been in a Minnesota winter, but you don't get oat in a boat very often.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you've got all these cool hobbies, you've got kids, at the same time, you're trying to run this ecosystem of partners and things through Tipalti. How does what you're interested in life transcend over to how to try to be professional and run these organizations in partnerships?
Yeah, it's a really good question. One thing that I really like to do too that I didn't mention is building, right? So I think so much in our world in software and in any partnership, right? There's not a tangible output. And so I long for that, whether it be building like a fence in the backyard or any type of kit. Like I love to get my hands on it. I love to build and I love to see what I built and then improve upon it too for the next time. And I've had that experience both throughout my career and starting creating partnership programs and then being able to do that again at the next company and refine it and build it, but also with inside of Tipalti. Over the last 6.5 years, we've grown tremendously fast. And during that time frame, we've done some amazing things. But at the same time, since we grew so fast, there's a lot of refinement that we can go back and look at. And that's one of the things I love, even as a dad, right? To being able to kind of just refine. The first thing you do is, teach your kid just the motion of brushing your teeth. And then it's about actually getting toothpaste on it and getting better at it too. And that's what I really love to see is the improvement that we're doing in our day-to-day at Tipalti and then in life in general too.
I love that analogy. I still drop toothpaste metaphorically on the floor pretty regularly. Why don't you give our listeners a quick overview of Tipalti? I mean, I have to tell you, everyone that I meet from your company, I just have really loved. I don't know if it's just that you're all from Minnesota or whether it's that you're just that great of a company, but to a person, everyone that I've met has been so nice and so helpful. What do you guys actually do?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that you've had great experiences with us. So Tipalti is accounts payable automation, or payables automation, I should say. So anyone who's looking to make payments to anyone around the world, we help that. And we help that in a number of different ways. Our biggest value proposition is for companies that have multiple entities who are paying out into tons of different countries. That could be in more of a mass pay use case where there's payment without invoice. So if you think you're leveraging a PRM and you need to pay your partners, we're a great resource to be able to pay out directly from Mind Matrix. On the flip side, for traditional accounts payable, we're helping out our customers get money landed in the UK, in GBP, or all around the world, 190 different countries and 120 different currencies, which is a difficult thing to do. We also, we view ourselves as, from a vision perspective, being the sales force for financial operations. So we just announced an acquisition of a company called Statement that does treasury. So giving our customers the ability to look at all their accounts globally. We have lightweight procurement, lightweight expenses, and we are getting in by pay by card and a number of different things too. So long-term vision is to be have an ERP on one side of the screen for the CFO, and the other screen is going to be Tipalti to take care of all the other issues that they need to monitor and track.
That's really interesting. I mean, Mind Matrix uses it just what you said. We've always pulled up at the point of monetary transaction. There's a lot of complexity in all of that, both inside the US and even more so for US companies doing business outside of the US, and trying to keep all of that straight is not simple. And you're our strongest partner in that area. So it's been really cool to be involved with you guys there and to get to know you so well. So you've got this background in partnerships overall. You, about 2 or 3 years ago, you were hired into Tipalti. What did you see, and what did you immediately think, oh, there's some stuff to do here? What was the first thing that you felt like you needed to get done? And then now that it's done, where is your strategy headed?
That's a really good question. So I've been with Tipalti for 6.5 years, and I've kind of switched a little bit of roles here along the way. And when I came on board, the partnership team was one person, and we were accounting 4.5% of sourced revenue was from the alliances organization. And when I came on, our CEO, Hen, said we want alliances to contribute 30% of referrals from a dollar value. So that was my main focus.
Let me interrupt you really quickly. I mean, not everyone draws the same line in the sand between alliances and partnerships and channel. When you talk about those three things, are you talking about them as synonyms, or is there a difference between alliance and channel, or alliance and partnerships for you guys?
Really good question. So to me, channel is more of a motion, a partnership motion, and it all fits under a partnership umbrella. And similar speaking, alliances do. And I think that you could have channel partners who are referring. You can have channel partners who are reselling, similar speaking with alliance partners. So when I kind of think of it all, it's like all partnerships contributing 30% of revenue across the board, regardless of our partnership motion with them.
Cool. Okay. So sorry to interrupt with that, but I wanted to make, because I love it when we got this term alliance in, because it means different things to different people. And I love to hear what people have to think about that. So anyway, crack on. And your goal is to get to 30%. You're at 4.5%, and you said, I've got the answer.
Yep. And so it was, we grew it over 6.5 years. We're at 38% of bookings are sourced from our team, which is amazing. At the end of Q2, we were at 55% of booked revenue in Q2. The partners had some sort of touch with. So 38% was referred. The additional 17% partners were influenced it. So we were bringing our partners in to either help close a deal, or we were leveraging integration that they built, et cetera. And we did that in about 5 years. We hit that 30% mark that our CEO wanted us to, and it was amazing. And we did that by hiring the right people and the right ecosystems, and being as flexible as we can be to meet the partner where they want to. To me, it comes down to partnership value of what do they really want to get out of a partnership with Tipalti. Some partners want to embed us and they're looking for attrition avoidance. And that's a much different play that how we manage that partner than someone who's looking to go to market with payments too and have it be at the tip of the spear versus someone who's looking to replace a competitor that they used to refer to as well. So we really try to spend a lot of our time on the discovery, I guess, if you will, and the partnership recruitment cycle of understanding what's important to them. So that's how we got to 38 and some change percent. And looking forward, what we really want to do is continue to expand into new ecosystems and find new ways to partner, whether that be through a channel program where we have partners who are actually representing and reselling as much as they can Tipalti, and then or being embedded in other types of applications. So PRMs is a great example, but then there's insurance applications that are calculating how much people need to be reimbursed or et cetera. And like anytime there's a movement of money, to me, it raises a flag like that's a potential partner to us. We also are going to be further expanding into new geos. Right now we're in North America. I have team members in the UK and in the EU, and we'll continue to expand out into LATAM and APAC and ANZ, et cetera, as our company continues to build their footprint globally as well.
That's really exciting. Very, very cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you found your way in. I like to hear the story of how you got to how you ended up in partnerships. How did that happen, and how did you find your way to Tipalti? What's the story there?
Yeah, so I remember clearly I was working as a sales rep at a company called SPS Commerce that does hosted EDI, and I still miss carrying a bag. I still miss selling to a certain extent, right? There's something that so gives you that gratification of getting a signature done. But we had a very interesting gentleman by the name of David Novak who came on board to be our EVP of business development. And I would walk by his office every day and knock on the door and say, "When can I work for you?" Right? Because he didn't have a team yet. But I was really interested in what he was doing, and it was outside of the regular sales motion. And I had found success working with some partners at SPS Commerce just by luck. And so David eventually hired myself and one other person to kind of lead the charge and build out the partnership program at SPS Commerce. And it was just such a wide net. It was really fun to see what all the possibilities were. I had every ERP ecosystem under the sun besides Microsoft. So it was all right. What can I see? What can I get to work? And SPS found a really good affinity working with NetSuite at that point in time. And I've created some really great relationships with NetSuite, which is in a lot of part how I ended up at Tipalti, since Tipalti is really strong in the NetSuite ecosystem, where our president now, Rob Isrock, was introduced to me through a gentleman at NetSuite who runs SDN program. So oddly enough, what really got me here was a butt dial too. So Rob Isrock, who's our president, he and I had a conversation. We determined that maybe working remote as a leader of alliances might not be the best thing to do. And about 2 months later, I got a call back from Rob, and I sent him a text message. I was in the middle of a trade show, and I said, I'll call you later. And he wrote back, "No need." It was a butt dial. And then about 15 minutes later, he goes, "But you know what? I was just talking with our mutual colleague at the time, and we'd love to actually have you fly out and have an in-person interview." And the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing story. So twice now you've stepped in and taken things from either zero or virtually zero to big scalable revenue numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive. One of the things that I've been thinking about and writing about recently has been how to make a case for partner programs to your C-suite. Now, there was probably some of that, right? Like they're like, "Okay, what do you need?" And you're like, "I need all this," and they went, "What?" But part of it is that they're saying to you, "Actually, we really need some partnership motions," and then they said, "Now you've got 3 months to do it." Can you talk to that process? How do you convince that C-suite that no, this is the right thing, even though it's, I know that you said it, that you wanted to do it, but it's going to take longer than you expect, and we really need to get this thing done.
Yeah, it can be difficult. And I think it really boils down to setting expectations and not being afraid to push back and being an expert in your field. Like those are the important things. If Tipalti didn't view me as an expert in partnerships when I joined, it would have been a different story, right? But they hired me to do something. It was something that I vetted out during the interview process too. And then it's about resetting expectations of, well, 30% in a year is impossible, right? And say, in order to do that, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And then the biggest piece is to say, in the next 60, 90 days, whatever it may be, I can achieve X with Y resources, and then proving it and going above and beyond and saying, okay, the next phase, I can do A, B, and C, but I need D, E, and F. And then proving it out, and then like constantly just reiterating that if they give me resources that I'm able to execute and to show growth and show improvement, and then just going back to that and saying, hey, I told you that we can do it if you give me this, and then I did it. So trust me when I say I need X plus Y in order to do it. And then I think it's just keep proving it time and time again to get those resources and breaking it out in bite-sized chunks.
Interesting. So normally speaking, when you talk to people about building programs, they're like, it's going to take you 2 to 3 years. Is that what it took you, or were you faster?
I would say, to be completely candid, we're not done building our program, right? It's I don't think that a partnership program is ever done being built. It's just constant new iterations of it. We got to a place where I felt really good about our program in probably about 2 years. About the 2 year mark, we were starting to hum pretty nicely. But then there's constantly adding new things like, hey, should we start looking at MDF and have marketing development funds, which is a huge priority for me right now? Or how can we get partners to build integrations for us to hit market quicker in new ecosystems? And so developing that plan, okay, how do we add more value to our partners and allow them to do implementations and services to it, right? So it's a constant evolving process, I think, for us.
It doesn't
but about 2 years to get good
people around you. I love KP, and you've got some great team members that have quite a bit of experience as well.
Yeah. 100%, Vaughn, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. Like it wasn't me who built this program out; it was all of Tipalti, and I think it's key. You have to hire really good people who know their ecosystems and know how to enable partners. It's also very important that the sales team's on board, not just the C-suite, but the actual AEs for them to understand, and then having a marketing team that's supporting it, and product and implementation, right? Support. Yep. All those areas really need to be in concert in order to make it work. It's not just one individual or the alliances team at large who's making it happen.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, so ecosystem itself, I mean, I'm assuming that you guys have an ecosystem, the partners working with other partners, working with you. And I mean, it's just the way everyone does business right now, but it's really messy. Now, some of that's in a good way, some of it's in a bad way. How are you adapting your strategy to all that? And when you started seeing that coming, what was your thought on how to adapt, I guess?
Yeah, I think that it ties back to the value of what each partner is trying to derive from working with each other, whether it be directly with Tipalti or through each other. Like, what are they trying to achieve? And once you fully understand that, then it's a lot easier to map out what the future looks like. Sometimes it's a compensation model, and sometimes it's a services model, or sometimes it's an individual at an organization who's looking to up-level their career. There's so many different components to it that you really needed to zoom out your lens and make sure that you understand what everyone's trying to get from a partnership to be really successful.
And then you have to actually want something.
Right? Weird.
Yeah, it's so funny. The days of just saying, well, we are X company, they should want to work with us. Yeah. They're in business for a reason, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you have to assume that your interests are second, really, more than anything, to prove that you're worth something to that partner.
That's really great insight, actually. And not enough people in partnerships really understand that as well as they should.
Yeah.
How are you doing that? How are you making sure that Tipalti is a good partner for their partners?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's certain things that in benchmarks, and I've been lucky enough to work with some really great organizations who have a really solid product, and that helps out tremendously to build out a partnership ecosystem. So that's a huge shout out to our product team. We have a 99% retention rate, which is huge. So when our partners bring us their customers and their prospects, they know that we're going to do the job and do it right. Our customer satisfaction speaks for itself in that regard. And I think that's key, is really to understand that, have our partners understand that we're not going to burn them or their partners or their customers at the end of the day. And from there, it just goes on again to really figuring out what that value is that the partner wants and then hitting it, right? So, and proving it out to them. If it was attrition avoidance, guys, from what you told us, we were able to help you avoid attrition by 7%, which your goal was 5%. So we're doing what we said we were going to do, and tying it back to that constantly is really important.
Oh, wow. It's so interesting to watch how people kind of approach that partner engagement and the friction between they're partnering, but there's still like, how do you get this done in a way that's mutually beneficial?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like to ask the people on the show, give me an example as you were coming up through the ranks or as you were becoming a leader of a time that you just went, oh man, I messed that up so bad. But more than messed that up, or maybe it wasn't a mess up. Maybe it just didn't turn out the way that you thought it would. But that you, as a result of that, you learned and it impacted you all the way down the road. Like it drives how you approach things today.
Yeah. It's a really good question. And I can think of mess ups just today that I've had, and hopefully they turn out to be fruitful. But I can go all the way back to the start of my career as well. There's been plenty. And I think the biggest thing for me, and I'll give an example here shortly, but the biggest thing for me is that there's always room for improvement. No matter what, even if you're at the top of your game, there's something that you can improve, and to have that mentality is super important. I think some of the things that I've done in the past to incorporate compensation for my team specifically has come at specifically of working directly with our C-suite on how to compensate our team, and me not having a strong enough voice when I first got into leadership on what I thought was right and what wasn't right. And that backfired on me dramatically, right? So my team, this is a previous organization, my team wasn't very pleased when their compensation model was shifted to be not as sticky as it should be, or not as fruitful. And I had to not only tell the C-suite that why our numbers are lower is because of the compensation model that I agreed to ultimately, but also incentivize our team to do it, right? So I'm getting it from both ends because I didn't feel comfortable enough using my voice and then using the data behind it to prove my point. And so that's been a huge piece of me moving forward is anytime there's something that I don't agree with, I try to find a way to tactfully say to the C-suite why that's not going to work. And also just elicit the feedback from the team, from all my leaders on why something will work and not work, and to grab all those data points so I can be prepared to have those conversations with the C-suite. So don't agree to anything unless you feel fully confident and comfortable in what it is.
Don't agree in the room right on the spot. Mm-hmm. No, that's a really big insight. I remember in my career being just bowled over. I found myself in a VP position, and then another time as a president, with a PE company, just being, you just didn't feel like you could say it or whatever. And it's just because you're young or you're new or you're first into a role like that. And that's a huge learning. And that's really important. Huh.
I think it goes back, Vaughn, to what we were talking about too on the proving your worth in order to get more resources for the Alliances team. If you're not, standing firm on what you believe and what resources you need or what's happening to the program, then you're not going to follow through with what you've already promised. And then your program's just shot at that point, right? It's really hard to turn it around.
Yeah. And I one of the things I've been writing about is how a lot of partnership organizations fail in their first 3 to 6 months. And you hear it over and over again. Like people will be like, well, this is the third time I've tried this. And the reality of that is that either they didn't get the right people in there, like they just promoted someone that had no idea what they were doing, or they didn't give it long enough, or, they didn't have a strong enough plan. And one of those things is the case every single time. And if you've got someone like you that can stand up, speak with authority, and then hold to the line, then eventually that's going to be the most important thing that happened to them.
Yep. I agree.
So tell me, okay, I like to kind of turn, you're a great leader in the industry. If you were to give a suggestion to other people that want to be in channel as part of their career, how do they make that transition in? How do they show people that they should be leaders in this space? Because it's a great industry to be in. People find them in here permanently, and there's plenty of room for growth. How do they make that happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, I like to tell people to find a mentor who's done it before, right? So I mentioned David Novak earlier from SPS, and I've had the opportunity to continue my relationship with him, post SPS. And I think that's really important to find someone who we can talk to about it and just learn from as much as possible. So that's like the first piece of it. I would also say that there's a big difference between a lot of jobs and partnerships. To me, partnerships is, if you think about game theory, it's an infinite game versus a finite game, right? In a finite game, like sales, is you're in there and like there's a start and there's an end, and you want to win that game, and then it's repeatable. In partnerships, it's infinite, right? You're just playing to stay in the game into perpetuity. Yep. And it's a much different motion. But then the really fun part to me, and something that I really, really love about partnerships, is that the infinite game is a bunch of different finite games in there too, where you're trying to win at the same time. So you need to be able to kind of play both types of games. And so it's understanding that it's a long-term play is really important. People will come into partnerships, and a lot of times the reason why partnership programs fail is because it's really built on finite game rules when it needs to be an infinite game.
Yeah, it's, I actually wrote about this yesterday. It's the difference between sales and marketing being linear versus partnerships being networked. And that interconnection in the network makes it harder to understand how to get to the outcome, even though theoretically, it will, if you it's a bunch of influences, as opposed to A plus B equals C.
Exactly. And in drawing, I think having the right data points to prove that what you're doing is working is really important, but it can be really difficult in our line of work to say, like, what I did 3 months ago is having impact now.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we're running out of time. These calls go, or these interviews go so fast. What's one or three or two, whatever you can come up with, suggestions that you have for folks in the industry just to consider right now for how they can improve their programs, or how they can really adapt to what's going on in ecosystem or the new technology that's going on? Just things that you've seen and you've said, I wish that people knew to do this. What would those be?
Yeah, this is a good question. So the first thing I would say is to make sure that everyone understands what your plan is, regardless if it's internally or externally, to be vocal and transparent about, hey, here's what I'm trying to get out of it. Here's what I'm trying to do. And the more you can kind of share that with the people, more people buy into it. And if they don't buy into it, you can ask them, well, why not? And they can say, well, because I think you're wrong in A and B. And then you can refine it too. So I think being vocal about what you're trying to accomplish, that's the only way you're going to get support and help, whether it be internally or externally on it too. I think the other piece is to really understand, I'll tie it back to the value again too, and that's internal and external as well, of what's the value that people are trying to get out of their relationship with you, and understanding that. And then you can hit on it time and time again, whether it be, why does marketing want to connect with my partners? Well, if it's to drive like marketing qualified leads, great. Like, now that I know that, let's work towards that together. Or if it's externally and what a partner wants to partner with you, understanding that and driving it back to the value you're providing is key. So that would be the other thing. I would say.
That's really cool. I like that idea of value. It's and that there's got to be value in the organization as well as outside of the organization, because again, not linear,
Yep.
Very cool. Well, Zach, thank you so much for taking part in this. I love these conversations, and you are no exception. That's it's cool to see what you're doing, and it's been great for me to be a part of, be connected to Tipalti, and I've really enjoyed all of that. So thanks for taking part. Thanks for jumping on the show, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Vaughn. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.